Hello from Gardening at Dwensa here in Ireland, and you're very welcome back to my mini-series. So in this series we've settled upon a certain border, the one that happens to be in front of the greenhouse, and each month we come back and have a look at that border in detail, see what gardening jobs need to be done, see what plants are looking good, and just basically follow it through the 12 months of the year. So welcome to a year in the life of a border. And as I said, welcome to a year in the life of a border, the greenhouse border to be precise. And the first thing you're going to notice is that fantastic Daphne, bholua, Jacqueline Postill behind me is still in glorious flower. Now there aren't as many blooms as there were last time, but it's really brilliant to still have that heady scent as I make my way out to the greenhouse to tend to my plants in there. It's a real reminder that spring is in the air. And here we are, just taking a bit of a pan across the border so you can see how much or how little things have grown since we were last here. And as you can see, I still have those clay pots, upturned pots in place just to protect the plants underneath. And of course the conifer in its clipped glory. And thankfully near the end of February it became dry enough to get the first grass cut of the season in. It just makes such a great difference to the look of the garden. The other main thing that's happened in the greenhouse border this year is that the large conifer at the side of the border has been trimmed. Now this conifer has a long and checkered history, and I got it 18 years ago in a Mother's Day arrangement that a friend of mine gave me, and it was just after the birth of my youngest son, and I guess I was feeling a little bit down, so it was wonderful that she handed me this really lovely arrangement with a dwarf conifer in it and various primroses, and the primroses were almost as big as the conifer. The arrangement did really well for a while until I guess the primroses stopped flowering, and then it got stuck into a corner somewhere, and then one day I decided, okay, I'm going to plant this conifer in the garden, and I took it out here to pretty much a open plan grassy plain because there was nothing in the garden in those days, and I planted the conifer in the ground. And look at it now. It is an absolute monster, and I think there's a lesson in there for us all, because conifers, even ones sold as miniatures or dwarfs, very often they just do what they want to do, which is grow big. So the garden developed over time, and this border, the greenhouse border, was made and included the conifer at its very edge. I guess I should get rid of it, but it does have sentimental value. Now what we've done is we've cut off the top to stop it growing any taller, and this year for the first time it's been trimmed. It's going to look a bit woody at first, but I was careful not to dig too deeply into the bare wood, because that is really something that you shouldn't do with conifers. And of course, because it is such a large evergreen tree, it really dries out the soil at its base, and it's difficult to grow anything right next to it. But you know, we deal with what we're given, and this conifer is going to stay for a while anyway, so I'm going to have to make the most of ensuring that my plants around it get what they need to survive. As you can see, the confetti from the Daphne is really making a pink carpet here on the border. But if we look carefully, we can see the tulips in full leaf at the moment, and even in some instances we can see that we are going to have flowers. This tulip is going to flower, and I'm really delighted that some of them still do. Many are blind now at this stage, but we have lots of tulips here that come from the time when Alberto was with me, and we planted over 500 glorious tulips in the garden. So it's just great seeing some of them continue to come up Now you're probably wondering what those funny red things are just near to the tulips. You can see them in here dotted in among the tulips and the confetti, and they look really quite interesting at this stage with red tips and kind of curled down leaves. And these are Euphorbia. Over here, the one on the right is really quite far advanced, and it's coming in a bit close to the Daphne for my liking, so I do rip them out because it is a very vigorous Euphorbia. But wait till you see the glorious orange flowers it produces, because it's worth having something vigorous if it's going to look as good as that for a long time. And here at the front of the border we have the Celmisia, still looking evergreen as usual, but no flowers yet. We'll look forward to those daisy-like flowers. The Leucanthemum is probably a bit more advanced since you last saw it. And of course the Hemerocallis, the variegated Hemerocallis. And beside the Hemerocallis we have my Ligularia, Osiris Café Noir as I recall. And this is a glorious one that I featured in my video about Ligularia not too long ago. And I'll link to that video at the very end because it really is a glorious plant. Behind it we have Aconite, which is looking quite leafy at the moment, and a blue flowered Salvia, which is that big leaf there. Now it is quite a vigorous one that seeds around, and well, it looks great. And over here you can see that the grasses are still looking good, moving ever so slightly in the breeze at the moment. And there are a couple of Echiums dotted in around them. I wonder, can you see them? There's one on the right and there's one over here in the border. So I don't know, let's just try and zoom in on that. Now these are volunteer Echiums that seed about my garden, and it's just wonderful to have that happen because Echiums are difficult to overwinter in my climate, and if you have a harsh winter you'll lose them. I mean, I tried everything. I tried digging them up and bringing them in the greenhouse, I tried covering them, but always I lost them. But if you catch a break and manage to get the plants to flower in the garden, then the seed goes into the soil and you'll never be without them, because the seed itself is hardy even though the plants aren't. And here we have one that's just kind of snuck in here between the grasses and the conifer, and actually it's a good position. It's a difficult area in terms of soil because of the drying out that the conifer does, and Echiums like that kind of dry soil at their roots, so this will do great here until such a time as it flowers and dies, and then hopefully we'll go again. And behind this pot here we have Melanoselinum, which is looking leafy at the moment. A plant with a great trunk. And the pot contains lilies, which I may actually put into the border at some stage. Moving to the left we have the evergreen Diplarrena and the Watsonia just beyond it, which you'll have seen in other shots. And one job I like to do in February is to prune the hydrangea, and this job just involves really taking off the dead heads. Now this is a fantastic macrophylla hydrangea called Ayesha, which has really unusual flowers, and it is a good moment to prune it. So if you want to see how to prune a hydrangea, I did make a video about that some time ago, and I will link to it at the end because it's a great time of year to do it, and hopefully we will get lots and lots of great flowers. And now, just for the sake of the aesthetics of the plant, I'm going to remove two of the lower branches that are just really too near the ground, and the one I'm going to remove here is this one, because it was just too near the ground, and then one more, which is this one here that's sticking out at a jaunty angle. And if you want to prune something so it won't grow back, cut as near to the base as possible. And this one's a bit puny, so I'll take it out too. Puny and twisted, not a good look. Okay, so I think that's the hydrangea ready for action this year. And that brings me to the end of this A Year in the Life of a Border video, which I hope you very much enjoyed. And it's just interesting to see what happens in a real garden at different months in the year. If you would like to support the channel, I'd be absolutely delighted if you bought a copy of my book, Journal of an Irish Garden, or bought some merchandise, tote bag, t-shirt as well, that pertains to the channel. Also, there is now a donation button, so if you feel like donating to the channel, that would also be very much appreciated. My book, however, is very much geared to gardeners, and it charts how I became a gardener in the first place, all my trials and tribulations, so do check that out if you like this video. Okay, thank you very much for watching, and do check back for lots more gardening fun. Bye!